There's this new buzzword making the rounds in government and big business, all the way from Paris to New Delhi. It's called sovereign AI, and it's this idea that's really shaking up everything we thought we knew about national power, technology, and what it even means to be digitally independent. To really get a grip on this high stakes race for control, we've got to start with one absolutely massive number. $4.25 trillion. That's not the budget of a country. That's the rough market cap of just one single company, NVIDIA. I mean, this isn't just another tech giant. It's basically become the foundation for the whole world's AI infrastructure. Think about it, a single choke point for the chips that are powering this entire revolution. And that really gets to the heart of the problem, right? Every country on Earth wants digital independence. Of course they do. They want to build their own AI, tailored to their own languages, running on their own servers. But the reality? Well, the reality is this deep, almost inescapable reliance on just a handful of foreign tech companies. And let's be honest, most of them are American. So this creates what you would call the AI sovereignty paradox. It's this crazy tension where nations are fighting tooth and nail to control their own digital destiny, but at the very same time, they're completely dependent on the exact foreign infrastructure they're trying to get away from. Okay, so what's the solution to this paradox? How are these countries trying to break free? Well, they're all turning to this idea of, you guessed it, sovereign AI. So what is sovereign AI really? At its core, it's not just about having AI. No, it's a full-blown national strategy to own and control the entire AI stack. We're talking everything from the physical data centers to the data that fuels the models, all the way up to the algorithms themselves. The whole point is to make sure it all serves a country's specific goals and their own unique values. And look, you can't really have sovereign AI if you don't have a sovereign place for it to live. And that's where the sovereign cloud comes in. Just think of it like a digital fortress. All the data is stored, processed, and managed completely within a country's borders, subject only to their laws, and totally shielded from foreign eyes. Now, this whole idea of sovereignty really rests on four main pillars. First up, you've got data sovereignty. That's just the basic idea that your nation's data follows your nation's laws. Simple enough. From there, you need technological sovereignty, which is all about being able to build your own tools and tech. But to run those tools, you got to have infrastructure sovereignty, basically control of your own data centers and networks. And the thing that ties it all together? That's regulatory sovereignty, the power to actually make and enforce your own rules for the digital world. Okay, so we've defined the concept, but now we're seeing this whole thing move from just theory into actual practice. There's a global scramble happening right now as countries all over the world are racing to build up these capabilities and finally assert their digital independence. And what's fascinating is that when you look around the globe, everybody's got a different playbook. The European Union, for example, is leading with regulations and focusing on values. The UK is all about deployment and building out infrastructure. Then you look at the Middle East, especially Saudi Arabia and the UAE, and they're just pouring in massive amounts of cash. And India? They're taking this really holistic approach, trying to build the entire ecosystem from the ground up. The EU's strategy is really something else. Their philosophy is basically regulate first, innovate second. By putting down these really strong legal and ethical frameworks, like their big EU AI Act, they're trying to build what they call an ecosystem of trust. The hope is that if you have clear rules, you'll attract safe and responsible AI development. It's a bold move. But, having a plan and actually pulling it off are two very, very different things. Just look at the UK. Right now, they have about 1.8 gigawatts of computing power. Their goal for 2030? 6 gigawatts. That is a huge infrastructure gap, and it just goes to show you the sheer scale and the cost of what they're trying to do. And that really brings us to the biggest hurdle in this entire race, because achieving true AI sovereignty, well, it isn't just technically difficult. It is astronomically expensive. And it's not even just about the money. Every country is facing this really delicate trade-off. On the one hand, you've got all these amazing potential benefits, stronger national security, economic growth tailored to your needs, and preserving your own culture and language. But on the other hand, you've got some serious risks. The costs are insane, there's a huge shortage of talent, and there's the very real danger of technological isolation. Where cutting yourself off from the rest of the world actually ends up stifling your own innovation. It's a tough balancing act. And I mean, the costs are just staggering. To close that huge infrastructure gap we were just talking about,
The UK figures it needs to pull in tens of billions of pounds in private investment. And that's just the price tag for one country to get a seat at the table.
So, if building the whole thing from scratch is just way too expensive and way too risky, is there another path? Well, this is where a really powerful alternative is starting to pop up: open source AI. And that really forces us to ask the big question here. When you're trying to get control of your digital future, is building a technological fortress and completely isolating yourself from the world, is that really the only answer?
This open source pathway seems to offer a pretty powerful middle ground. Here's how it could work. A country could start by grabbing a state-of-the-art open model that's been built by the global community. Then, they customize it. They fine-tune it using their own local sovereign data, making sure it reflects their own language and culture. And finally, they deploy that customized model on their own secure, sovereign cloud. So you see, it's a path to sovereignty, but without having to completely cut yourself off. And that really leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? As this global race for AI control just keeps speeding up, what is the future actually going to look like? Are we heading toward a world of disconnected, sovereign digital islands where every country has its own little AI? Or could it be a more open, collaborative world where sovereignty isn't about isolation, but about smart adaptation? The answer to that is probably going to define the entire next era of technology.